The council chamber was enormous. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. Hundreds of alien species filled the curved rows of seats, each one representing a different world. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some were made of living crystal that sparkled under the lights. At the very back, in the smallest section, sat the human delegation. Ambassador Daewon adjusted his formal jacket and waited for his turn to speak. He had been doing this for 15 years now. Before him, other human ambassadors had sat in the same seat for almost 300 years. Always patient, always polite, always hoping that one day the other species would truly accept humanity as equals. Next to him sat Hyunwoo, the military liaison. The tall man wore his uniform but never spoke during meetings. He simply stood there quiet and watchful, while alien warriors from other species made loud speeches about their strength and power. They would laugh at him sometimes. Call humans weak because they preferred talking to fighting. Daewon had heard all the insults before. Too emotional. Too soft. They care too much about individual lives. The other species thought these were weaknesses. They believed that real power came from being willing to sacrifice millions without hesitation. The current speaker was a reptilian creature named Vix Rathor from the Queller species. His feathers were bright red and his voice was sharp. "The humans waste resources on medical aid," he said, his words echoing through the chamber. "They send food to dying colonies instead of letting nature take its course. This is not how a strong species behaves." Several other delegates made sounds of agreement. The insectoid Krathen clicked their mandibles in approval. The crystalline Nethera chimed with what sounded like laughter. Daewon kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing anger only made things worse. Instead, he took notes and waited. Captain Jiwon watched the meeting from the human embassy station that orbited above the council world. She sat in her command chair, surrounded by screens showing different views of the planet below. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring communications and maintaining the station's systems. "Another typical day," said her second officer, a young woman named Sujin. "Let me guess. They're insulting us again?" "Probably," Jiwon replied. She had stopped watching the council meetings years ago. They always followed the same pattern. The humans would make reasonable suggestions. The other species would ignore them or vote them down. Then someone would make a speech about how humans didn't understand the harsh realities of galactic politics. But lately, something had been changing. The insults were getting worse. More importantly, the council had started making decisions that directly hurt human colonies. They had denied requests for emergency supplies when a plague hit one of Earth's frontier worlds. They had voted to restrict human expansion into new sectors, claiming humans were spreading too fast. They had even authorized military actions near human space without consulting Earth's government. Jiwon had sent reports to Earth about these developments. She knew that patience had limits, even for humans. Back in the council chamber, the session was reaching its end. Daewon finally received permission to speak. He stood slowly and walked to the central platform where speakers addressed the assembly. "Thank you for allowing me to speak," he began, as always, with courtesy. "I want to discuss the Council's recent decision to restrict humanitarian aid convoys through Sector 7. Before he could continue, a massive reptilian creature from the Vraxim species interrupted him. "The Council has already voted on this matter, human. Accept the decision and sit down." Daewon took a breath. "With respect, that decision affects 17 human colonies. We were not properly consulted before." "You were consulted enough," the Vraxim delegate said. His name was Thorax, and he was known for his aggressive stance on everything. "Humans always want special treatment. You always want exceptions. The Council's decision stands." Other delegates began to speak, their voices overlapping. None of them were defending the humans. Some were actively mocking Daewon for even trying to object. The session ended an hour later. As usual, nothing had changed. Daewon gathered his papers and prepared to leave. That was when Vix Rathor approached him with several other senior delegates. "Ambassador Daewon," the Queller said, his tone falsely pleasant. "We need to inform you of a decision the Council made in closed session last week." Daewon felt a cold sensation in his stomach. Closed sessions were rare. They were used for urgent matters that couldn't wait for full Council debate. "What decision?" "The Council has authorized the Vraxim to conduct mining operations in 3 systems within human-claimed space," Vix Rathor explained. These systems contain valuable minerals needed for galactic infrastructure projects. The operations began 4 days ago. 4 days ago? Tiwan's voice remained calm, but his hands tightened on his papers. Those systems have human colonies. Millions of people live there. Had colonies, Thorax corrected, stepping forward. His massive form towered over the human ambassador. The populations were relocated. They should arrive at designated refugee stations within the next few weeks. You displaced 47 million humans without even telling us? Daewon asked. The council determined it was for the greater galactic good, Vix Rather said. He seemed completely unconcerned. Surely humans understand that individual comfort must sometimes be sacrificed for the benefit of all species. Hyunwoo had moved to stand beside Daewon. The military liaison's face was completely blank, but his posture had changed. He stood differently now, like a weapon waiting to be drawn. Daewon looked at the alien delegates surrounding him. He saw no shame in their faces, no guilt. They truly believed they had the right to do this. After 300 years of diplomatic relations, they still saw humans as junior members of the galactic community, as lesser beings who should be grateful for whatever scraps of respect they received. Something changed in Daewon at that moment. A decision crystallized in his mind with perfect clarity. I see, he said quietly. Then there is nothing more to discuss. He turned and walked back to the human section. Hyunwoo followed. The other human staff members looked at him with questions in their eyes. Daewon made a simple gesture and they all stood. Where are you going? Vix Rather called out. The council will have more sessions tomorrow. You must attend. Daewon stopped at the chamber's exit. He turned to face the assembled alien delegates. Hundreds of eyes in dozens of different forms watched him. The chamber had gone quiet. No, Daewon said. His voice was not angry. It was not sad. It was simply final. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will be leaving this station within the hour. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates laughed. Others shouted questions. Thorax roared with amusement. You cannot survive without the council, human. You will come crawling back within a month. But Daewon was already walking away. His team followed him. Behind them, the council chamber filled with the sounds of mockery and dismissal. None of them understood what had just happened. They thought the humans were running away in defeat. They thought this was a tantrum that would soon be forgotten. They had no idea that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The humans had been patient for 300 years. They had been peaceful. They had been diplomatic, but patience has limits. And the galaxy was about to learn what happens when humans stop being patient. Within 6 hours of leaving the council chamber, every human diplomat, scientist, trader, and civilian began evacuating from alien territories. The order came from Earth itself, transmitted through channels the other species didn't even know existed. It was fast. It was organized. It was absolute. Captain Ji-won stood on her station's command deck and watched the exodus begin. Shuttles launched from the planet below, carrying the human delegation and support staff. Similar scenes were happening across the galaxy. Every human was coming home. All personnel accounted for, Sujin reported. We've retrieved everyone from the council world. No one left behind. Good, Ji-won said. Seal the station. Activate Protocol Blackout. Sujin hesitated for just a moment. Protocol Blackout was something they had trained for but never used. It was the emergency plan for complete separation from galactic society. Confirmed. Activating now. On the planet below, alien officials were just beginning to realize something strange was happening. The human embassy had gone dark. All their communication systems had shut down. When Queller security forces tried to enter the building, they found it completely empty. The humans had taken everything, even the furniture. Similar reports came flooding in from across the galaxy. Human trade stations were closing. Human commercial ships were jumping to hyperspace and disappearing. Human research facilities were evacuating their staff and wiping their databases clean. And then the borders closed. Every entry point to human-controlled space suddenly became impassable. Alien ships approaching the boundaries found themselves politely but firmly turned away by automated defense systems. No explanations were given. No negotiations were offered. Just a simple message. Human space is now closed to all external vessels. Do not attempt entry. Bora sat in a secure facility on Earth surrounded by screens and holographic displays. As Director of Human Intelligence, She had been planning this moment for years. She had hoped it would never be necessary, but she had been prepared nonetheless. "Status report," she said to her team. "All civilians extracted successfully," one officer reported. "0 casualties." "All embassies secured and emptied," another added. "The aliens found nothing useful." "And the technology?" Bora asked. A young analyst named Tae Yang stepped forward. He looked nervous but excited. "Phase 1 complete. All human technology sold or shared with alien species has been remotely locked. They can't access any of it anymore." Bora nodded. This was the part the galaxy didn't know about yet. For 300 years, humanity had been the galaxy's primary source of innovation, not because humans were necessarily smarter than other species, but because they approached problems differently. Human medical technology was used in hospitals across 1,000 worlds. Human agricultural systems fed billions of aliens. Human power generation kept entire planets running. All of it had been designed with hidden protocols, encryption keys that only humans controlled, remote shutdown capabilities that could be activated from Earth. It was insurance, put in place decades ago by cautious human planners who worried about exactly this kind of situation. "How long until they notice?" Bora asked. "Some already have," Taeyang said, pulling up reports. "The Nethera are reporting system failures in their jump drives. The Krathan's agricultural networks are showing errors. The Queller medical centers are locked out of their diagnostic equipment. And the Council's response? Confusion, mostly. They're trying to contact us, but we're not responding. Some think it's a technical glitch. A few are starting to realize it's intentional." Bora allowed herself a small smile. Let them realize. Maybe it will teach them to value what they had. In the council chamber, emergency sessions were being called. The alien delegates who had laughed at humanity's departure were now facing a cascade of crises. Their economies were tanking. Their infrastructure was failing. Their fleets were grounded because human-designed components were shutting down. Vixarathar stood before the assembly, his red feathers ruffled with agitation. "This is unacceptable. The humans cannot simply leave and take their technology with them. We paid for those systems. You paid for the hardware," a Nethara delegate pointed out, her crystalline body chiming with stress. "But the software, the operating systems, the core programming, all of that was licensed. And apparently all of those licenses just got revoked." Thorax, the massive Vraxium warrior, slammed his clawed hand on his desk. "Then we take what we need by force, send our fleets to human space, make them turn everything back on." There was a moment of silence. Then several delegates began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in panic and anger. "You can't be serious. That would be an act of war. Do you have any idea what you're suggesting?" But Thorax was confident. The Vraxium had the largest military fleet in the galaxy. 300 warships, each one massive and powerful. They had conquered 17 species over the past 1,000 years. Surely these humans, these peaceful diplomats who had never shown real military strength, would not stand against them. "I am completely serious," Thorax declared. "I will personally lead the fleet. We will show these humans that they cannot defy the Council. They will learn their place." Within 2 days, the Vraxium fleet assembled. 300 warships, gleaming and terrible, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. They jumped to hyperspace, heading toward the nearest human border. Thorax stood on the bridge of his flagship, feeling confident. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. They had never fought a major war. They had never demonstrated real military power. This would be simple. They would breach the human border, destroy a few defense stations, and the humans would surrender immediately. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of human territory. Thorax expected to see defense platforms or patrol ships. Instead, he saw nothing. Empty space. Not a single human vessel in sight. "Scan the area," he ordered. "Find their defenses." His sensor officer worked at the controls. "Sir, I'm not detecting anything. No ships, no stations, no mines, nothing. Impossible. They must be here." "Scan again." The officer scanned again, and again. The results were the same. Empty space. "Perhaps they fled," one officer suggested. "Perhaps they knew we were coming and ran away." Thorax felt a surge of contempt. Cowards. These humans were even weaker than he thought. "Forward. We'll push into their territory until we find something to destroy." The fleet moved forward, crossing the invisible line that marked the human border. Still nothing happened. They traveled for an hour, going deeper into human space. The sensors showed no resistance, no response at all. Then the ship started dying. It happened without warning. One moment, Thorax's sensors showed 300 functioning warships. The next moment, 50 of them simply stopped. Their engines went dead. Their weapons powered down. Their life support systems continued working, but everything else just turned off. "What's happening?" Thorax roared. "Why are those ships dead?" "I don't know, sir. There's no enemy fire. No weapons discharge. They just stopped working." More ships died, then more. The Vraxium fleet was being systematically disabled, and they couldn't even see what was attacking them. Panic spread through the fleet. Captains shouted contradictory orders. Some tried to retreat, some tried to advance, some just fired their weapons blindly into empty space, hoping to hit something invisible. Thorax's own flagship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Sir, we're losing power." "Something is draining our systems." "Fire everything. Fire at anything. There must be something out there." The massive warship's weapons blazed into the void, striking nothing. And then finally Thorax saw them. Ships appeared out of nowhere. Not gradually materializing, but simply suddenly being there, as if they had been invisible a moment before. Human ships. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. They were everywhere, surrounding the Vraxium fleet completely. They weren't large ships. Most were smaller than Vraxium cruisers, but they moved with impossible precision, like a school of fish or a flock of birds perfectly coordinated. And they weren't firing weapons. They didn't need to. The Vraxium ships were already defeated. A transmission came through to Thorax's bridge. A human voice, calm and cold. "Vraxium fleet, you have violated human space. Your vessels have been disabled, but your crews are unharmed. You will be escorted back to the border. Do not return." "Wait," Thorax tried to say. "We need to," but the transmission ended. The human ship simply began towing the disabled Vraxium vessels back toward the border, like an adult moving toys out of a room. It was effortless. It was humiliating. Of the 300 warships that entered human space, only one escape pod made it back to Council territory. The pod drifted for weeks before being found by a Queller patrol. Inside was a junior Vraxium officer, barely coherent, his mind broken by what he had witnessed. They were everywhere. He kept repeating. "We couldn't see them. We couldn't fight them. Our weapons were useless. Our ships just stopped. The humans didn't even bother to destroy us. They just turned us off like we were children playing with toys we didn't understand." The recording of his testimony was played in the council chamber. 300 delegates from dozens of species listened in growing horror. For 300 years, humanity had been part of galactic society. They had shared their technology. They had helped other species. Admiral Chanmi walked through the corridors of the Indomitable, her footsteps echoing on the metal floor. The ship was massive, stretching 15 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was made of materials that hadn't existed 50 years ago. Its weapon systems were based on physics that most alien species didn't understand. And it was just one ship in a fleet of 40 identical vessels. For 300 years, these ships had been built in secret. Hidden construction yards in remote star systems. Resources quietly diverted from civilian projects. Thousands of human engineers and scientists working on classified programs that the Galactic Council never knew existed. "Admiral on deck," someone called as she entered the bridge. Officers stood at attention. "At ease," Chanmi said. She moved to the central command chair and sat down, looking at the main display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with human territory highlighted in blue. Around that blue zone, red markers indicated alien fleets, trade routes, and military installations. "Status report." Her tactical officer, a calm young man named Wu Jin, stepped forward. "The Ghost Fleet is deployed and operational. We have eyes on every major alien military installation within 50 light-years of our borders. They can't move a ship without us knowing." The Ghost Fleet was humanity's secret weapon, ships equipped with stealth technology that made them completely invisible to every known form of sensor. They could slip past any defense, appear anywhere without warning, and disappear just as quickly. Even now, ghost ships were silently orbiting the homeworlds of every council species, watching and recording everything. "And the Krathen?" Chanmi asked. "Still planning their invasion," Wu Jin replied. "Intelligence suggests they'll launch within 3 days. They're gathering a force of about 2,000 hive ships." Chanmi nodded. The insectoid Krathen had decided that humanity's withdrawal was a sign of weakness. They believed humans were afraid of conflict. They planned to invade a human colony world, enslave the population, and prove that the Krathen were superior warriors. It was going to be a very educational experience for them. On the colony world of New Jeju, Captain Sujin prepared her defense forces. The planet was home to 8 million humans, most of them farmers and researchers. It had minimal military defenses because, frankly, it had never needed any. It was deep in human territory, far from any borders. But the Krathen Hive Fleet was coming, and they would arrive in less than 72 hours. Sujin stood in the Planetary Defense Center, looking at tactical displays. Her second officer, a thoughtful woman named Hyejin, stood beside her. "We could evacuate," Hyejin suggested. "Get the civilians off-world before the Krathen arrive." "No," Sujin said. "That would send the wrong message. Besides, we're not going to lose this world. We're not going to lose any world." "But 2,000 hive ships won't be enough," Sujin interrupted. She pulled up a display showing defensive positions around the planet, except there weren't many. A few orbital platforms, some ground-based weapon systems, nothing that could stop a full-scale invasion fleet. The Krathen think they're attacking a defenseless colony. They think we're weak because we've never shown our full strength. It's time to correct that assumption. 71 hours later, the Krathen Hive Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the New Jeju system. 2,000 ships, each one carrying thousands of warrior drones. The hive mind coordinated them all, treating the entire fleet as a single organism. The hive commander, a massive Krathen named Ixtala, surveyed the human planet through sensory inputs from 1,000 different ships. He saw the small defense platforms, the weak energy shields, the handful of human vessels in orbit. Pathetic. This would be over in minutes. "Begin the invasion," he commanded through the hive link. "Destroy all resistance. Take the humans alive when possible. They will serve the hive." The fleet moved forward, weapons charging. The human defense platforms opened fire, their beams splashing harmlessly against Krathen shields. A few human ships tried to intercept, but they were vastly outnumbered. The Krathen advance continued. Then, exactly 14 seconds after the battle began, something changed. On the bridge of one hive ship, a warrior drone suddenly noticed something on the sensors. A single human vessel had appeared behind them. Just one ship, small and unremarkable. It wasn't firing weapons. It was just sitting there. Before the drone could report this oddity to the hive commander, its ship stopped working. Every system went offline simultaneously. Engines, weapons, shields, communications, everything just shut down. The ship began drifting, powerless. This happened to 50 ships in the first second. Then 200 more, then 500. The hive fleet was dying, ship by ship, with no visible cause. Ixtala felt the panic spreading through the hive mind as hundreds of his vessels went dark. "What is attacking us? Where are they?" His sensor drones searched frantically, and then they saw human ships were appearing everywhere, not coming out of hyperspace, just appearing, as if they had been invisible a moment before. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They surrounded the Krathen fleet completely, appearing between the hive ships, behind them, above them, in formations so precise they seemed impossible. And still, they weren't firing weapons. They didn't need to. Each human ship emitted some kind of pulse targeting the hive vessels with perfect precision. Whatever the pulse was, it passed through Krathen shields like they didn't exist. It ignored armor. It simply reached into the core systems of each ship and shut them down. Ixtala watched in horror as his invasion force was systematically disabled. 2,000 warships reduced to floating debris in less than 15 minutes. Not destroyed, just turned off like someone flipping a switch. His own flagship was one of the last to die. As the systems failed around him, Ixtala saw a human face appear on his main screen. It was Captain Sujin, transmitting from the planet's surface. "Hive Commander Ixtala," she said, her voice neutral. "Your invasion has failed. Your ships are disabled but intact. Your warriors are alive but helpless. This was done intentionally. We wanted you to understand something important." "Understand what, human?" Ixtala managed to ask, his mandibles clicking with rage and fear. "That we can kill you whenever we choose." Sujin replied, "We chose not to. Your warriors will be returned to Krathen space unharmed. But if you ever threaten human worlds again, we will make a different choice. Tell your hive this: mercy is not weakness, patience is not cowardice, and humanity has run out of both. The transmission ended. Ixtala felt his consciousness fading as his ship's life support began to fail. The last thing he sensed through the hive link was thousands of his warriors, all alive, all trapped in dead ships, watching helplessly as human vessels surrounded them. The Battle of New Jeju lasted 14 minutes. Not one human died. Not one human ship was destroyed. The entire Krathan invasion force was captured intact. Across the galaxy, other species watched the recordings with growing dread. The footage showed everything. The Krathan fleet arriving confidently, the human ships appearing from nowhere, the systematic, effortless destruction of 2,000 warships. In the council chamber, Vix Rathor stood before the assembly, his red feathers pale with fear. "We have made a terrible mistake," he said, his voice shaking. "The humans have been hiding their true capabilities for centuries. We thought they were weak because they chose peace. We were wrong." A Nethera delegate's crystalline form chimed with anxiety. "Our analysts have reviewed the battle recordings. The technology the humans displayed is at least 200 years more advanced than anything we possess. Those stealth ships alone would make them nearly invincible in any conflict. And that's not all," another delegate added. "Our intelligence sources report that humans have developed instantaneous communication. Not faster than light, instantaneous. They have quantum communication gates that allow their forces to coordinate across the galaxy in real time. That's why their ships moved with such perfect precision." Thorax sat in his seat, his massive form slumped. The warrior who had led the Vraxim fleet to its humiliation now understood the truth. The humans hadn't been avoiding conflict because they were afraid. They had been avoiding conflict because they were trying to be kind. "What do we do?" someone asked. The question hung in the air unanswered. Throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations were reaching the same terrifying conclusion. For 300 years, humanity had participated in galactic society. They had shared some of their technology, but only the safe parts, only the civilian applications. They had never shown their weapons, never demonstrated their military capabilities, never revealed what they were truly capable of. Now the mask was off, and what lay beneath was terrifying. Dr. Young Mi appeared on communication screens across the galaxy, speaking from Earth. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but her message sent shockwaves through every alien government. To the species of the Galactic Council, she said calmly, "You have asked how humanity defeated your fleet so easily. The answer is simple. While you were building bigger weapons and larger ships, we were solving the fundamental problems of physics. We cracked quantum entanglement communication 20 years ago. We perfected stealth technology 50 years ago. We developed non-destructive electromagnetic pulse weapons 70 years ago. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the galactic economy was collapsing. Trade routes that had existed for centuries were breaking down. Technology that civilizations depended on was failing. Species that had treated humanity with contempt now faced daily crises. The Nethera were suffering the worst. Their crystalline biology required precise temperature controls that only human-designed environmental systems could maintain. 3 of their 7 homeworlds had lost power when the human technology locked down. Billions of Nethera were living in darkness and cold, their beautiful crystal cities going dark one district at a time. Desperate pleas for help came from Nethera leadership, broadcast on every frequency, hoping humans would hear. "Please, we're dying. Our children are dying. We were wrong. Please help us." But the human borders remained closed. No response came. The Vraxim faced a different problem. For 1,000 years, they had ruled their empire through military force, subjugating weaker species and taking what they wanted. But with their fleet humiliated and their weapons outdated, rebellions were spreading. Species they had oppressed for centuries were rising up, and the Vraxim had no way to stop them. Thorax watched from his command ship as another subject world declared independence. His warriors were powerless. Their ships were still damaged from the encounter with human forces. Their weapons technology was decades behind what they now knew humans possessed. Worse, human ships had been spotted in several rebel systems. Not attacking, just observing. Sometimes they would appear in orbit above a planet where Vraxim forces were attempting to crush a rebellion. The humans never fired a shot. They just appeared hovering there, silent and watchful, and somehow their mere presence was enough to make Vraxim commanders retreat. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were held every day, but they accomplished nothing. The aliens had no leverage. They couldn't threaten humanity militarily. They couldn't offer anything humans wanted. They could only watch as their civilization slowly fell apart. Colonel He commanded the human rescue operations in former Vraxim territory. His mission wasn't to help the Vraxim, it was to save the innocent species they had oppressed. His fleet moved from system to system, appearing without warning, evacuating populations before Vraxim forces could reach them. "Sir, we've got another request," his communications officer reported. "The Talrix people on Vraxim Colony World 16. They're asking for evacuation. The Vraxim garrison is falling back and they're threatening to destroy everything before they leave." He nodded. "Take us there. Standard evacuation protocol." Human ships arrived at the colony world within hours. The Vraxim garrison commander contacted them immediately, his reptilian face filling the screen. "This is not your concern, human. These are Vraxim subjects. Leave immediately." "These are innocent people," He replied calmly. "We're here to evacuate them. You can leave peacefully or we can make you leave. Your choice." The Vraxim commander looked at the human fleet surrounding his planet. He knew what choice he had to make. "Take them. Take them all. See how you like dealing with millions of refugees." But He just smiled. "We're humans. Taking care of people is what we do." Within 2 days, the entire Talrix population was evacuated and transported to human space. They were given food, shelter, medical care, and offered the chance to start new lives on human worlds. The same thing was happening across a dozen systems. The galaxy watched in confusion. Humanity had the power to conquer everyone. They could have used the chaos to expand their empire, to seize territory, to become the dominant force in the galaxy. Instead, they were rescuing refugees, helping the helpless, protecting the weak. It made no sense to species raised on the idea that power should be used for domination. Former Ambassador Day-Wan now served as humanity's overseer of external affairs, a position created specifically for this crisis. He sat in his office on Earth reading the thousands of messages that arrived every day. Pleas for help, offers of submission, desperate bargains. He read every single one, and he responded to each with the same message. Humanity will consider re-engagement when the Council demonstrates it understands the meaning of equal partnership. His assistant, a young diplomat named Sang-Woo, brought him a new file. "Sir, this one is different. It's from the Krathen Hive Queen herself." Day-Wan opened the file and read. The message was brief but stunning. The Krathen were facing a plague, a mutation of a disease that humans had helped them eradicate 200 years ago. Without human medical technology, they had no way to fight it. The Hive Queen was offering complete submission, all Krathen territory, all resources, everything in exchange for the cure. "What should we tell them, sir?" Sang-Woo asked. Day-Wan was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood. "Tell them we're coming. And tell them we're not accepting their submission. We're helping because it's the right thing to do." "But sir, the military advisors said we shouldn't." "I don't care what the military advisors say." Day-Wan interrupted gently. "Thousands of Krathen are dying every day. We have the cure. We're going to give it to them." 3 days later, a human medical fleet arrived in Krathen space. Dr. Hyojin led the mission personally, bringing with her the cure and medical teams to distribute it. The Krathen Hive Queen, Rixkatala, met them at the border. "Why are you doing this?" the Queen asked through her translators. "We tried to invade your world. We called you weak. Why help us?" Hyojin looked at the massive insectoid creature with compassion. "Because you're dying and we can save you. It's really that simple. But the Council said humans only help those who serve them. They said your kindness is a tool for control." "The Council," Hyojin said quietly, "has never understood humans at all. We don't help you because you serve us. We help because it's right. There's a difference, and it's important that you learn it." The medical teams spread across Krathen worlds, distributing the cure freely. They asked for nothing in return. No territory, no resources, no political concessions. They just saved millions of lives and then prepared to leave. Queen Rixkatala stopped them before they departed. "I don't understand your species, human doctor. You have the power to destroy us. Instead, you save us. Why?" "Because power isn't about what you can destroy," Hyojin replied. "It's about what you choose to protect. Maybe if more species understood that, the galaxy would be a better place." The Krathen Queen watched the human ships depart. For the first time in the Hive's long history, she felt something she had never experienced before. Shame. Not for being weak, but for having misunderstood what true strength meant. News of the human medical mission spread across the galaxy. The species that had mocked humanity's compassion now saw it differently. Humans had every reason to let the Krathen die. They had every justification for revenge. Instead, they had chosen mercy. In the council chamber, delegates debated what this meant. Some still clung to the old ways, insisting that humanity was playing a long game, that their kindness was manipulation. But others were beginning to understand. Vix Rathor, the Queller delegate who had announced the illegal mining of human colonies, requested a private meeting with human representatives. To his surprise, it was granted. He found himself in a small room on a neutral station, facing Ambassador Day One. "Thank you for seeing me," Vix Rathor said, his pride forcing the words out with difficulty. "I almost didn't," Day One replied honestly. "Your actions caused tremendous suffering." "I know." The alien's feathers were dull, lacking their usual vibrant color. "I've been watching what your species has done these past months. You could have crushed us all. Instead, you saved the Krathen. You rescued millions of refugees from Vraxim territory. You're still helping planets in crisis, even though they're not your responsibility." "Life is always our responsibility," Daiwan said. "That's what I'm beginning to understand," Vix Rathor said. "For my entire life I was taught that compassion is weakness, that caring about individuals instead of the collective good is foolish. I believed that. I acted on it, and now I see how wrong I was. So what do you want from me? I want to know if there's any way to fix this, any way to earn back your trust. Not for me, I don't deserve it, but for the species who are suffering because of decisions people like me made." Daywan considered this carefully. The council needs to change. Not its name or its structure, but its fundamental values. Equal representation, respect for individual life, zero tolerance for exploitation. If you can help make that happen, then maybe we can talk about humans rejoining galactic society. And if the council refuses to change, then they'll continue to fall apart without us, Daywan said simply. "We don't need the council, but the council clearly needs us. That's the reality you all need to accept." Vix Rathor left the meeting with much to think about. For the first time, he understood what the humans had been trying to tell the galaxy for 300 years. Power without wisdom is just violence. Technology without ethics is just tools for destruction. And strength without compassion is just bullying. The galaxy was learning these lessons the hard way. Some would understand in time. Others would cling to the old ways and perish. But one thing was certain. The age of taking humanity for granted was over. Humanity had abandoned the table, and in doing so, they had shown the galaxy what they had truly lost. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. In that time, the old order had crumbled completely. The council itself still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. Half the member species had withdrawn or collapsed. The remaining delegates spent their days arguing about how to survive without human support. The change everyone had been waiting for finally came from an unexpected place. The Taurics, the small species that humans had rescued from Vraxim territory, proposed something radical. They suggested creating an entirely new organization, built on principles that humanity had tried to teach the galaxy for 3 centuries. They called it the Cooperative Assembly. Engineer Min Seo sat in a design conference on Earth, working with representatives from a dozen species to draft the new organization's framework. She was young, barely 30, but she had been chosen because she understood both human values and practical politics. "The key is equal representation," she explained to the assembled aliens. "Not based on military power or economic strength. One species, one vote. Everyone has the same voice." A Nathara delegate chimed nervously. "But what about disputes between large and small species? How do we prevent tyranny of the majority?" "Checks and balances," Minseo replied. She pulled up a holographic display showing the proposed structure. Multiple levels of review. Protection for minority rights, and most importantly, a core set of principles that cannot be voted away. Respect for individual life. Prohibition against exploitation. Mandatory humanitarian standards. The work took months. Dozens of species contributed ideas. Some of the proposals were good. Some were terrible. But slowly, with human guidance, a framework emerged that most species could accept. The old council fought against it, of course. The species that had benefited from the previous system didn't want to give up their advantages. But without human technology and trade, they had no leverage. The new cooperative assembly moved forward without them. Ambassador Daewon was invited to attend the first official session. He walked into the new assembly hall, built on a neutral world that no single species controlled. The design was different from the old council chamber. There were no elevated seats for powerful species. Everyone sat at the same level in a circle, facing each other as equals. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of species filled the chamber. As Daewon entered, they all stood, not because humans had demanded it, but because they wanted to show respect. The Talric speaker, a small creature named Kixtal, approached Daewon. "Ambassador, we are honored by your presence. Will humanity join the cooperative assembly?" "That depends," Daewon replied. "Has anything really changed, or is this just the old council with a new name?" Kixtal gestured to the assembled delegates. "See for yourself." The first session began. Daewon watched as species that had once dominated through military force now negotiated as equals with species they had previously oppressed. He saw the Crathen Queen voluntarily offer reparations to worlds her hive had damaged. He watched the Nathara share technology freely, instead of hoarding it for advantage. It wasn't perfect. Old habits died hard. There were still arguments, still conflicts, still misunderstandings. But the fundamental approach had changed. Species were trying to cooperate instead of compete. They were seeking consensus instead of dominance. After hours of observation, Daewon stood to speak. The chamber went silent. 300 years ago, he began, humanity joined the Galactic Council with hope and optimism. We believed that different species could work together, learn from each other, and build something better than any one civilization could achieve alone. For 3 centuries, we tried to make that vision real. We shared our knowledge. We offered our help. We practiced patience. He paused, looking around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. And for 3 centuries, we were disappointed. Not because you were different from us, but because the system itself was broken. It was built on the assumption that some species deserve more power than others. That might makes right. That compassion is weakness. We left because we refused to participate in that system any longer, and in leaving, we showed you what you had lost. Not just our technology or our trade, but something more important, the presence of a species that actually believed in the principles you all claim to value. The chamber remained silent. Every delegate listened intently. "Now you've built something new," Daewon continued. "You've created a system based on equality and cooperation. You've written protections for the weak into your founding documents. You've acknowledged that all species deserve respect regardless of their military power. These are good steps. But the question remains, do you truly believe in these principles, or are they just words designed to bring humanity back?" Vix Rathor stood from his seat. The Queller delegate's feathers were gray now, dulled by age and regret. "Ambassador Daewon, I cannot speak for everyone here, but I can speak for myself. 2 years ago, I believed humans were foolish for caring about individual lives. I thought your compassion made you weak. I authorized the displacement of 47 million humans because I believed our needs were more important than yours." His voice cracked with emotion. "I was wrong. Completely, terribly wrong. And I've spent every day since then trying to understand why I was so blind. The answer, I think, is that I was raised in a system that valued power over everything else. A system that taught me to see kindness as manipulation and mercy as strategic weakness." He looked directly at Daewon. "The cooperative assembly isn't perfect. We're still learning, still making mistakes, but we're trying to build something different, something better. And we're doing it because your species showed us a better way, even though we rejected that lesson for 3 centuries. Other delegates stood and spoke. The Crathen Queen talked about how human mercy had saved her people and taught them the difference between strength and cruelty. A Nathara diplomat described how human engineers had helped them restore power to their darkened worlds, asking for nothing in return. A small species called the Mirax explained how human forces had protected them from extinction when their larger neighbors had tried to conquer them. One by one, they acknowledged what humanity had tried to teach them. Some spoke with genuine understanding. Others were still learning. But all of them agreed on one thing: the galaxy needed humans to be part of it. Admiral Chan Mi watched the session from the human embassy station. She had her fleet ready, just in case this was some kind of trap. But as she listened to the speeches, she began to relax. They might actually mean it, she said to her tactical officer, Wu Jin. Some of them do, Wu Jin agreed. Others are just afraid of us now. But fear-based cooperation is better than no cooperation at all. Maybe, Chanmi said. But we need to make sure they understand something. We're not coming back to save them. We're coming back because they've earned it. At the assembly session, Daewon finally gave his answer. Humanity will join the cooperative assembly. But we have conditions. First, the humanitarian protections in your charter must be enforced, not just written down. Second, any species that violates these principles will face consequences from everyone, not just humans. Third, we will share our technology again, but slowly, and only with species that demonstrate they'll use it responsibly. He looked around the chamber one more time. And most importantly, understand this. We're not rejoining because we need you. We're rejoining because we believe in what you're trying to build. But if you fall back into the old ways, if you start treating weaker species as disposable, if you forget the lessons of the past 2 years, we will leave again, and next time we won't come back. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the cooperative assembly with full membership and equal status. Over the following months, the changes became real. Dr. Young Mi opened human research labs to cooperative study, sharing medical breakthroughs with species that demonstrated ethical standards. Captain Jiwan led efforts to establish joint defense pacts that protected small species from aggressive neighbors. Engineer Min Seo helped design new trade networks that distributed resources fairly, instead of concentrating wealth in powerful civilizations. The old Vraxim Empire continued to collapse, but now it was managed decline rather than chaos. Human forces protected civilian populations while former subject species established their own governments. Thorax, the once proud warrior, found himself working with human advisors to help transition his people from conquerors to equal partners in the galactic community. How do you live with it? He asked Colonel Jae-hee one day. They were working on a refugee resettlement program, trying to find homes for millions of displaced beings, knowing that your species could dominate everyone but choosing not to. It's not about choosing not to dominate, Jae-hee replied. It's about choosing to build instead. Domination is easy. Any species with enough weapons can conquer. But building something that lasts, something that actually improves life for everyone, that's hard. That requires cooperation, patience, and genuine respect for others. Your species makes it look easy. It's not easy, Jae-hee said with a slight smile. We're just committed to it. The Cooperative Assembly held its first major success 6 months after humanity joined. A plague threatened a small species on the galactic rim.